What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor, hit that sub button and hit that notification bell. Make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out. With this video, we are jumping into A.X.E Judgment Day Prelude. From our free comic book day last week, we are finally getting the issue of Avengers, X-Men, and Eternals. This is the build-up to the big event of 2022. If you have not been keeping up with the Eternals line or the X-Men line, be sure to check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It is going to get you completely caught up on everything going on with those series. And while we haven't really been keeping up with everything going on with the Avengers, it's not really a necessity to jump into this story. To be honest, the Eternals is really the only required reading to jump into Judgment Day, to understand what has been happening with them and how they fit into the grand scheme of everything going on. And with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright guys, so as we jump into our Judgment Day Prelude, it's really just recapping us on who the players are. We know who the Eternals are. They are the protectors of the machine, maintaining Earth and the status quo. We know their job is to stop any excess deviation. This is one of the core principles, ingrained in their very DNA. It is not so much a moral obligation, so much as it is an obligation that it was passed down from the Celestials. This is their entire purpose for existence. But more recently, what the Eternals have learned is that when one of the Eternals die, for them to get revitalized, brought back to life, it comes at the cost of one human life. And then of course, we have the Avengers, Earth's mightiest heroes, the second line of defense behind the Eternals. Last but not least, we have mutantkind. And this is where things get just a little bit complicated, jumping us into the past just shy of 1 million years ago. We are picking up with Uranus, the grandfather to the one and only Thanos. He is currently having a discussion with Odin and Druid, with Odin being one of the Avengers of this time era. The Eternals have brought him here to have a discussion, because right now there is a ape species, and they have a very unique ability. They have telekinesis and telepathy. Now, an individual monkey, they're not going to be very powerful, but joined together as a hive mind, this brings up some cause for concern. Now, Uranus, he's a pretty tyrannical dude, known as Uranus the Heretic. If you want to find out his story, you're gonna have to go and check out the Eternals line. Odin has been summoned here today because the Eternals plan on taking out this entire species. While this may seem a little bit harsh, Uranus sees this mutation, sees these monkeys as a deviation, that if they are left unchecked, eventually they could be the destroyers of this entire planet, letting us know that sometimes mutation is just mutation, but other times it can also be deviation. Odin not really being 100% on board with this idea of exterminating an entire species. Uranus lets it be known that this is their core principles. It is their job to stop excess deviation. And so if you and the other Avengers decide that you want to stand in the way, this will undoubtedly lead to war. Odin unwilling to go to war with all of the Eternals. The three of them watch as this entire forest burns. Taking us to present day, we have an excess deviation and our current Avengers are trying to take this guy on. But much like Odin, the species of humankind, they don't really recognize excess deviation when they see it. And that's because excess deviation can really be put up for debate. While individuals like Uranus would very easily say that monkeys that can use telepathy and telekinesis, that might be excess deviation, it is also called mutation, much like the X gene itself. As the Avengers take this guy on, this is where we have the arrival of Icarus and a few other Eternals coming in to take out this excess deviation. They do it swiftly and very quickly by exploding this dude's head. Of course, the Avengers are always thankful for the help of the Eternals, especially when you have a monster that is just running rampant through the city. And so far, the Eternals have really helped them out and been a great asset. But the question now lies, when someone like Thanos or Uranus get into power, when they begin to question the X gene and what is mutation, what is deviation. With these questions being proposed, that is where we see mutantkind being put in the crosshairs. The Eternals have been keeping tabs on them for quite some time, using Jack of Knives to infiltrate and find out what they are truly capable of. Reporting back to Druig, this is where they have learned the X-Men have immortality. And now Druig must consider, is mutantkind an excess deviation, or is it just mutation? The X-Men having the capability to really rise to god-level status. The possibility of surpassing the Eternals themselves. Could this mutation lead to the very destruction of Earth? And if it can, what do we do about it? And so while that brings an end to our prelude, getting ready for Judgment Day that is happening in July, we are taken to the island of Krakoa. And we are getting narration from Moira. Now, she has been through a lot lately. If you have been following the X-Men line, you know exactly what is going on with her. Turning herself into the first version of the Omega Sentinel, or at least that's what it appears to be. After Mystique and Destiny attempted to assassinate her, being the individual responsible for the X gene cure, they wanted to ensure that this would never happen again. And that is only possible through the death of Moira, with her now hell-bent on the destruction of all mutantkind. She knows that these guys were once feared because they were different, but now that mutantkind is winning, they are hated for completely different reasons. Not only that, mutantdom has been keeping a secret. They have unlocked immortality, and by all appearances, it looks like Moira is trying to pit the Avengers against the X-Men, possibly even the Eternals. She could be the very cause of this war to begin with, believing that if she can manipulate the right people, if she can make the right moves on the chessboard, she can turn all of Earth against mutantkind, that they can extinguish them once and for all. Because while the Avengers have gone against the X-Men before, they have always pulled their punches. They have always held back. Moira intends to ensure that the Avengers do not stop until mutantkind has died. And this is only if she plays her cards in the right manner. Picking up with Mary Jane Watson. Mary Jane dropping her aunt off for the night after they had a television interview. As she goes downstairs, someone is waiting for her in the shadows. This someone is Moira Sentinel. Now, Mary Jane at this point, she has no idea what is going on, but Moira is easily able to overpower her, and she puts her to sleep. Because with the Hellfire Gala 2022 right around the corner, Mary Jane has an invitation, and so Moira wants to use her skin to get into that gala, much like we saw her do so she could get into the Krakoan gates and try to take out Xavier. The fate of Mary Jane now hanging in the balance, and Moira having complete access to Krakoa, being able to go in completely unnoticed. That is a story that will continue in the Hellfire Gala and Destiny of X. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. You know, I'm glad that they finally released this. It may be a week late, but man, this is going to be such a fun event. You know, I love me some X-Men. I have been loving the Eternals line. While we haven't been following everything going on with the Avengers, I am excited for them to also be thrown into the mix. Because the truth is, it looks like the Avengers are going to be trying to stop this war of gods from happening. The last last thing the Avengers want is a war between the Eternals and mutantkind. The truth of the matter, mutantkind will probably win that fight. While the Eternals are very powerful, they have a lot of strength, the combined might of all mutantkind. This is not a fight that you are going to win. Not only that, but we have just recently learned that the X-Men resurrection protocols, they're actually much more humane because the X-Men don't have to take a human life. The Eternals, when they die, a human life is sacrificed for their rebirth. You could honestly say that the Eternals, they have now reached a point where they're more or less obsolete. It's gonna be very interesting to see Uranus play some kind of part in all of this. No, I can't imagine that they would introduce him and not have him be an active role in whatever happens next. After he had just recently gave Thanos access to world-ending devices, an entire armory meant to be able to take down some of the fierce and greatest foes that would ever face against the Eternals. While the combined might of all mutantkind may be vastly superior to that of the Eternals, the weapons they have in their arsenal, these doomsday devices, could very well be the deciding factor in what happens next. Either way, this looks to be like one hell of a fight. Let me know your thoughts, let me know your theories. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by hitting the Super Thanks button. This button will let you donate directly to the channel, and every little bit helps us out. Now, if you can't do that, do me a favor, hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you like this video, and until the next breakdown.